Fáilte, uicha hamna, darklings. I hope your pumpkins are carved and your cauldrons are stirred, because the spooky season is upon us. And ghouls, do I have a freak show for you. With the Halloween season upon us, my fellow creatures of the night, on this channel we plan to celebrate. So join me, darklings, as we creep on into our first ever Spooktober. The communication ritual. Now, if you're listening to this, then this is probably one of the many rituals you have read or listened to on the internet. So you can either turn back now or stay to listen. If you partake in these ritual instructions and correctly execute them, then you could be chatting with a soul that no longer lives on this earth in no time. However, beware, as there are risks in the time period of you starting and ending this ritual, many of which are quite unfortunate. But don't think about that too much. Reread the instructions if needed, and you should be fine. To start off this ritual, you will need the following things: 2 candles, a lighter, salt, white string, a window's length, black string, a window's length, gasoline, matches, and a window, preferably one facing a field or the woods. And lastly, an object of dear importance to the one you wish to speak to. Now that you have all the materials needed, you can start setting up the ritual. Once you have found the needed window, put the candles on the right and left edge of the small slab you used to lean on, and memorize what wonders your sight gives you while looking at what lays beyond the window. If you don't have one of those, then put the candles on the floor where the edges of the window would approximately be if they stretched downward. By this point, you might have guessed that you will be talking to your lost soul through a regular window, and these candles are here to protect you from the spirit, due to the fact that if there is no light left, the spirit can escape the dark's void and potentially be parasitic, to say the least. So as a precaution, there are 2 sources of light in case one blows out for whatever reason. Most spirits consider these 2 flickers of light to be a sign of manners, rather than you just turn on the lights. They may even respect you if you manage to pull off this ritual multiple times without messing up, of course. Once the candles are set, take the white string and tape it on the top side of the window while taping the black string on the bottom side. Do not do it the other way around. This can make the spirit think you want to harm them, and this surely will raise the odds of the spirit not thinking of you too fondly. And trust me, you would not want a spirit thinking the wrong way about you. This can lead to, as I said before, things most unfortunate for you. Just keep that in mind. These strings represent the balance of your realm and the spirit's realm. Having this balance is key to keeping your realms connected, or in other words, your consultation going, which gets me to our next ingredient: salt. The salt, as you have most likely guessed by now, is your friend. Not only does it protect you, but more importantly, it is the border that separates the worlds you and the spirit are in. To make the border, dip one of your fingers into the salt and trace a rectangle around the window. Do this step a couple more times if necessary, And pardon me if I'm being over dramatic, but get all the areas in your rectangle completely salted. It does not matter how much salt is at every edge as long as there is at least some. We cannot imagine the chaos that would erupt in this world if even one organism that does not or no longer comes from our world were to slip into our own. So make sure you get this step right, like all the other ones. Trace the shape 1,000,000 times for all I care, but get the job done, and keep this salt with you at all times during the ritual. With that said, we can move on to the last item. Once you have acquired the important token of the one you would like to interact with, the ritual is ready. The ritual can only be started within the time gap between 12 AM and 3 AM, so yes, you'll be doing it at night. The ritual works best on cloudy nights. It is okay if it's raining, but for some reason ghosts despise thunder while in this ritual, making them aggressive or sometimes uncooperative at all. So check the weather forecast closely on your ritual night, and don't forget that you also have to have all electronics and all calls during the time of the ritual taken out of your house and transferred to a different time, since it's not best to have any outside world distractions during the ritual for your own safety. When the time comes, don't go to bed. Instead, starting at 12 o'clock sharp, stare out of the glass that will soon be separating you from the being that will shortly be on the other side. But do not worry, you have 3 hours to get yourself ready, and don't forget that you can end the ritual practically any time you want after dawn, but you can only start it after 12 and before 3. When you feel like everything is set and adequate, take a few deep breaths and begin the ritual. Start by blowing a hot breath through your mouth onto the chosen window to fog it up. Turn off all the lights, so the only visible part of the room would be shown by the warm, small blanket of fire coming from the candles. Once you have the candles lit, find the special object for this ritual and burn it. If the object is not flammable, then use the gasoline that you prepared. It should do the trick. It is recommended that you obviously do this outside, because not only will it save you from being engulfed in smoke, or worse, flames, but it will also attract the spirit much more rapidly than burning their heated object indoors. Once you see the first flicks of burning orange on the object, immediately turn around and walk back to your house. Do not look back during this process, as doing so will let you see something no living human can yet comprehend. Stop exactly a step away from your house and recite the following poem. The wind shall howl, but this game is no foul. The dark and light shall give a sum. With this we ask of you to come. I summon you tonight. Appear in my sight. Once this is done, calmly walk back into your house while closing the door behind you, without turning around. Get back into your chosen room. Close your eyes and count to 10. Once this is done, grab the salt bag you used and slowly come up to the mirror. Firmly grip your salt bag and make sure you show no sign of fear before you meet the spirit. Once you are close enough to the mirror, wipe off the fog from the mirror and you should now see the spirit you wish to talk with, taking the shape of the body they used to own. Them being in another dimension that is clearly not your own. I cannot precisely tell you what it looks like, simply because the views are very diverse and every person that tries the ritual sees something different and unique. Oh, and try not to piss yourself if you see the desired spirit. If you do not see them, spray the window with the remaining salt on your bag, blow out the candles, turn on the lights in only the room of your house, and leave your home. Sleep at a friend's house or a hotel if you want, but you cannot return to your house for the rest of the night. You may return to your house in the afternoon, but I would recommend using that time for moving, since the spirit you summoned probably won't leave your current home anytime soon, and chances are you won't like a ghost living in your house. You probably just bothered a spirit that did not want to be disturbed, and this makes them angry. You must move. Only pack during the day and never attempt this ritual again if you ever want to live life normally. If the spirit you called does show up, then congratulations. You have just done what very little of our population has done in all of history. You may ask the spirit anything you wish. However, there are a few things to keep in mind. Please do not mock or insult the spirit, even if it does seem like a close friend or family member. You never know who's really behind that corpse once the soul and body have been disconnected in the transition to the afterlife. And the last thing you want is an unfamiliar soul getting, as I said, mad. While the spirit will answer your questions truthfully, it will occasionally ask you some as well, and lying is not an option. If you decide to lie or ignore its question, it will either get angry or start to slim down the truth to your questions, until it might just stop answering at all. And don't think you can get away with quickly getting the most important answers out of the spirit and then abandoning ship, because unfortunately, that is not possible. Since when you start the ritual, the spirit starts the conversation, and with the conversation comes the first question from the spirit. So answer truthfully, no matter how foolish or disturbing the questions are. Another scenario that you might be unlucky enough to be in is if one of your candles suddenly blows out. Stay calm and don't do anything stupid. If the spirit you are talking to senses one shred of tension inside you, then it knows that you are afraid and will use it as an advantage to try and convince and manipulate you to open the window, even if it has to think up impossible lies only the wildest imaginations hold. And don't think you are out of the woods if you are smart enough to lock your window. In fact, you have a worse fate to deal with as if you give in. You will most literally smash the window rather than gently opening it. Continue on the ritual smoothly and never look at anything besides the spirit, because there are only you and the spirit. At least keep telling yourself that to not go mental. If you accidentally do show that you are scared, then ignore any threats or pleas the spirit has to say. Do anything possible to stop you from listening to the spirit, because if you open that window, then not only will the spirit escape into your world, but it will also take your body and fling your soul into non-existence in the dark void it's been in for the last eternity. So continue the ritual and finish it as soon as possible, and as soon as you know it's morning. And I almost forgot, if you ever hear footsteps somewhere in your house, or perhaps someone sprinting to your room and constantly knocking at your door, with voices calling out and sounding familiar, yet at the same time speaking otherworldly languages, or laughing hysterically every so often, ignore it and continue on with the ritual normally. It is probably just the spirit messing with your head. Probably. But it's best to still not open your door to see what lies on the other side, as sometimes it's just best to leave things you aren't supposed to know unknown. And one last thing, If the ghost you're talking to ever stops in the middle of a word and stares at something right above your head, almost like there's someone right behind you, do not turn around. Continue the ritual and do not look back until you have finished. On more than one occasion, you might also feel cold breath being blown on your fingers who are defending the last shimmers of hope. On rare occasions, you might even feel a hand on your shoulder, moving right up to the top hairs on your head. Pay no mind at all to this, and do not look back. If one candle blows out, then you still have a chance. But take this as a serious warning, as it is your first and final. Do everything in your might to stop the second candle from blowing out, as if it does, well, it's the worst case imaginable scenario for you. But as long as you resist the urge to look back and wait for the first glimpses of sun rays to come from the horizon, you will survive. With all this said, the ritual's conclusion approaches at a fast pace. To end the ritual, you must ask the spirit the sentence, "May I move on?" If the spirit replies with, "I let you go," then you are free to thank the spirit, blow out the candles, and leave the room. Try not to go into the room with your ritual window for the next couple of days, just to make sure that the spirit leaves your house for good. But other than that, you should be fine. But if the spirit responds, "I keep you in," then, well, I suppose you'll just have to continue the ritual until the spirit accepts your departure. But now that the ritual is behind you, continue your life normally. There are no catches. Your house is not haunted, and neither are you. You correctly performed the ritual and got all the information you needed. Or perhaps you have one more question. That requires that you repeat the communication ritual. Thanks for joining me for tonight's tale, Darklings. I am GoblinPrincessKyo, and if you enjoyed our encounter, then subscribe for more accounts and tales from the darker side of life. Ah, the broom fell. Company is coming. Sweet dreams. Meet you back at midnight.